Greetings and welcome back to Ring 303 in our chats with Emily, as we are calling our readings through the poetry of Emily Dickinson. We turn now to poem 522 in the Johnson edition, Had I Presumed to Hope. Another poem about wanting something, longing for something, and not finally getting that something. But we're not clear in this poem what that something is. One scholar has called it the X of the poem. What is it that she is referencing in this poem? It isn't completely clear. It's what we can call maybe another riddle poem of a type. In our earlier riddle poems, and we've seen several of these, especially related to nature, poems 60, 72, 173, 247, 311, 507, all come to mind. Emily said once, quote, she says in a poem, number 1222, the riddle we can guess, we speedily despise. And in a letter to Sue, letter number 586, she said, in a life that stopped guessing, you and I should not feel at home. Anyone who really loves Emily's poetry loves to guess, loves the curiosity of it all. And here we'll be playing a similar game. Our assumptions are that you've been following our stuff at learnstrong.net. Down that left-hand side, Chats with Emily, our playlist. I'm helpful that you've worked through our set of introductory comments in the preceding 521 poems. We just finished with 521, Endow the Living. Now I want you to notice the structure of this poem, first of all. Had I preceded, had I, right, okay, then, had I presumed, and then tis. So right away you just want to circle that in the poem as you get ready to read it and recognize that you're there. We're also in this poem back to poem 67, maybe Emily's most famous poem, Success is counted sweetest by those who ne'er succeed. To comprehend a nectar requires sorest need. The idea that you don't know really what longing and desire is all about until you're in a situation where you don't get it. I should point out, by the way, the word despair Emily uses in 31 different poems. Let's enjoy this one. Had I presumed to hope, the loss had been to me a value for the greatness' sake, as giants gone away. Had I presumed to gain a favor so remote, the failure but confirmed the grace in further infinite. 'Tis failure, not of hope, but confident despair, advancing on celestial lists with faint terrestrial power. 'Tis honor, though I die, for that no man obtain till he be justified by death. This is the second gain. Now the idea of gain, what is it that matters in life? Well, sometimes we get the things we hope for, but most of the time what? We don't get the things we hope for. The only way we can ever appreciate those things, the failures of our life, are in our death after, right, in the end. Notice the had I presumed. Had I presumed to hope. Notice hope here is not capitalized in line 1, but is capitalized in stanza 3. Did you see that? So there's a shift maybe in our mind, in our way of thinking about hope. There is the hope of this life. There is the hope of the second life, the second gain, the afterlife, if we will. Had I presumed to hope, the loss had been to me a value, right, for the greatness' sake. In other words, I failed to get something as big as a giant, is basically what she's saying. These giants can be understood as maybe great accomplishments. Back to poem 252 you'll remember, Give Balm to Giants. Had I presumed to hope, the loss had been to me a value for the greatness' sake, as giants gone away. At least I tried to do something gigantic, something important, something profound, and it just got away from me. You know what we're saying? But hey, at least I tried. Had I presumed to gain a favor so remote, in other words, impossible to actually attain, the failure but confirm the grace is further infinite. In other words, at least I tried, even if I failed. 'Tis failure. There we go. Right? 'Tis failure. Dash. Not of hope, dash, but, and now she'll use a phrase that is truly remarkable, confident despair. I'm sorry, confident means I know this is going to happen. Yes, I'm confident. Despair means what to you? Screw it, I'm done. Well then how can you be both confident and despairing at the same time? And Emily goes, oh no, that's your life. That's your whole life. Your whole life is this action of confidence. Okay, let's go. We're going to do this. Knowing all the while that ultimately you're probably going to fail. I mean, what's the final failure? Well, we're to Beowulf and of course his famous dragon at the end of that epic poem, right? In other words, no matter how great a warrior Beowulf is, sooner or later he's going to hit the dragon. And what happens when you hit a dragon? Failure. It's over. And yet, confident despair, advancing on celestial lists, right? In other words, knowing death is coming and whatever is after death, celestial lists, or some referencing to the individuals who have lived in the past who did great things. Can we call them giant things, right? With faint terrestrial power. In other words, we aspire to some kind of great things, but we live on this terrestrial ball. We're stuck with our limitations, and we got to come to terms with that. And then she'll say it, from 'tis failure, 'tis honor. Notice her shift here. Though I die, for that no man obtain, till he be justified. She uses this religious, theological language. Justified. Of course, we also think about Milton in Paradise Lost, to justify the ways of God to man, that theodicy question. We've given full lectures at learnstrong.net. Till he be justified by death. And then, throughout the entire poem of questions, of musings on, is it really worth it? She finishes with, this, dash, is the second gain, dash. I think there's a number of different ways. I mean, some people have read this poem as despairing. Some people have read this poem as something other than despairing. And I think it's a message possibly that it's better to try and fail than not to try at all. Right? I mean, some of you are actually trying to read all 1,775 of these poems. That is a lot of poetry. Would you agree with me? And yet some of you are saying, I'm going to try and do it. Some of you will fail. Some of you will succeed. I congratulate both, as Emily would. At 2b, of course, the structure of this is fascinating, that kind of two-part structure. At 3a, I can't help but think of Tennyson's In Memoriam, 'tis better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all. Finally, at 3b, do you agree that the second gain is really what matters, even though you have failed to get your giants? Thank you.